Hello and welcome to episode 153 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode is the return of a guest that was easily one of my most downloaded episodes I've ever done. One of my most popular guests where the feedback was absolutely phenomenal. So many people love the journey that he's been on, how honest he was, how open he was, and the journey that made him come from this really dark place to such a better life now. That's right, today this is part 2 of Joey Cramer. This is easily one of my favourite interviews again that I've done. I thought part 1 was open. I thought part 1 was really gripping and really heartfelt. But this one knocks it completely out of the park, and I can't wait to share it with you in just a couple of minutes time. But before we get to that, let's touch base and talk about the previous episode. I was joined by the return again of a really popular guest, the incredible genius Neil Blomkamp. The interview has done so well. It's had the most single downloads in a day ever. It's on course over the next probably 2 or 3 weeks to be my most downloaded ever episode. And the best thing is, you never know what you might get. You never know if Neil might come back for another episode in the near future. So all I'll do is say, watch this space. But let's get back to today's episode. As I said, this is the part 2 of Joey Cramer, and I can't wait for you to listen. But before I do, I want to mention the documentary that we talk about during this interview, Life After the Navigator. It's done by an incredible documentary maker, Lisa Downs, and I'm thrilled to say that she will be coming on the podcast in the very near future, so also keep a lookout for that. So I think the best thing to do right now is to get the interview with me and Joey. So here's me and Joey talking all things Navigator. So Joey, thanks for coming back on the Mark and Me podcast.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's been, I reckon, I'd say about 8 or 9 months since you've come on the podcast, and the response to when you first came on was absolutely huge, and everybody absolutely loved your documentary because over in the UK it came on to Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been since we last spoke? Is life still treating you well?
Life is, it's treating me really well. I'm still working hard. I think I found a really amazing acting coach. So I really dove into some really cool like audition techniques and kind of script stuff and just taking everything that I'd learned up to this point and kind of starting to apply it. Because something I found was there's a whole it's just a different style of acting to get a part, to audition. So I found a great coach, and it's actually a cool story because we're about the same age, and his name's Jeb Beach. He's here in Vancouver, and he actually he saw Flight of the Navigator when he was 12, right? 12, 13, and was like, hey, I can be an actor. It was the first time that he thought to himself, oh, I can be an actor. So it's really interesting. And I think it's one of those things, the way the universe works and brings things full circle. And because we connected, and he told me this story of how he saw me in that film and then wanted to be an actor. And so he went to school and and then became an actor, and now is an acting coach as well as an actor and stuff like that. So then we connected, and so it's just been really great, and he's helped me a lot.
So it's a small world, isn't it? You don't realize sometimes when these things go kind of full circle, and the fact that he was influenced by you, and now you're kind of learning and taking from him. It's a quite a nice little story.
It really is. It's really cool. And I mean, on that same kind of thread there, I've connected with some friends of Lisa Downs and stuff, and then some other people, filmmakers, etc., who are all over the world, who got into filmmaking because of seeing Navigator and wanted to do stuff. So it's pretty special to be involved in that film. And then the response from the documentary as well has just been incredible. People reaching out saying that they're able to talk about stuff with their friends or family, maybe that they didn't before, stress or anxiety or depression, even things like even some addiction and things like that. So it's really kind of opened up, shown people that it's okay, and that we've, and that was part of my goal for being so candid and talking so freely about what I'd been through, was so that people could relate and see that it's okay, that even when we unearth our deepest, darkest secrets, the world doesn't end. It almost gets better because it gives you that freedom once those things are out.
When we last spoke, we were talking about the documentary, and I hadn't seen it at the time. I think it was only just finished and it was ready to come out. And
Yeah.
since we've last spoke, I've seen the documentary, and it was absolutely brilliant, and Lisa's done a fantastic job with the team. But what really opened my eyes up was just how honest you were, and the fact that there was no hold bars. You were literally to the point where you were just allowing access all areas at all times, and you were really brave to allow that. I have so much admiration and respect for you for just being so open.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was it was hard to do, I think, at the time, but I really trusted Lisa and
Yeah.
Ash, with my story and with making something really special and really neat out of it. So it really, their my faith in them, and their heart and their love for the movie, and then wanting to do this documentary, really gave me the freedom to be completely myself, to open up, and just and it all just kind of came pouring out of me. And yes, Lisa did an amazing job editing, putting together, finding this beautiful story, and the celebration of the film and stuff. There was so much cool stuff that even I had never seen. The old Chris O'Donnell auditions, and even some of my old audition tapes were so neat, and the behind the scenes, the cool movie magic was incredible. All of the CGI, of course, but then the other things, the in-camera effects, and some of them I was there for, but some it was like, wow, oh, that's how they did that, right? That's how this worked. And so it kind of renewed my love of the film as well.
What was it strange watching it back? Did you kind of think, "Oh my god, like, ugh, like, God, I can't believe I've let that make the final cut," or was it just a relief that it was all done and they were seeing the real you? Because there's nothing worse than watching a documentary where it's staged or someone isn't really being themselves. You don't realize how the viewers can actually see it. It's very transparent, but there's no doubt about it. You were you, and you'd put yourself completely on the line for Lisa.
Thank you. It was definitely nerve-wracking. There, she had sent me a couple of rough cuts to have a look at, and we talked about it, and then I had some inputs and some thoughts, to kind of tie some threads together. There were definitely things that I was hesitant about including. Because even though my story is coming from my perspective, there was still a lot of people in my life that were affected by my story, by my
Yeah.
journey, who are still close friends and family. And so I was a little hesitant as to what people might think of, of some of the things that I disclosed, and stuff like that. But I was able to actually talk to some people, and kind of say, this was a huge part of my life, and I want to talk about it. And I'm just, and is that okay with you? And it was all good. And there were definitely some hard things, talking about my dad and stuff, but I think that the important part was that, was the resolution that we had, that before he passed away and things like that, that we got to actually have these kind of some connected moments, and connect.
Do you think that kind of when I watched the documentary, it was an opportunity for you to address those things that maybe you wouldn't have addressed if it wasn't for the documentary? So maybe you've just left them too far in your soul or the back of your head, and it brought it to the surface, but it was a good way because it mean that you could resolve them, and actually,
Mhm.
if there's demons there in the past, you brought them to the forefront and you were able to acknowledge it and kind of do what you needed with those.
Yeah, I think that I did work on a lot of the my guilt and shame and kind of trauma issues and stuff when I was in the Guthrie, the therapeutic
Yeah,
community based in Nanaimo Corrections there. So I was able to start to unearth a lot of this stuff and really come to terms with things and realize that especially one of the big realizations was that I've done bad things, but I'm not a bad person
exactly.
underneath it, right? And that's the difference, and that's, I think, an important message or lesson for everyone to acknowledge, is that we may feel bad at times or feel like we've done wrong or just feel less than, but we are inherently good underneath our hearts and everything and stuff like that. So to follow my heart and just was a huge lesson. And yeah, I think I got a little sidetracked with that one, but
No, it's what I love about you is you are you, and you don't put on a brave face, or you're not scared to be upset, or just be honest, because you've gone through the worst times, but you've come out of it, and that's a lot of the feedback. And I remember sending you messages and emails with what comments had come through from listeners last time, and there's a lot of people out there that are doing things they regret, or that would reflect badly on them, but it doesn't make them a bad person overall. And it's the message that I got from the last episode, is that it doesn't define you who you are, even though those actions have taken place. And that's one of the
yeah,
biggest lessons I've learned, especially from you, Joey.
thank you.
And what advice do you give to people? Because I've found that a lot of the listeners to the podcast are people that are struggling with mental health and depression and
Mhm.
anxiety, and people aren't as scared anymore to admit they need help, which is a good thing. People are more open to saying, look, I'm a man, I'm in my 30s or 40s, and do you know what, I'm suffering and I need help.
Yeah.
But what advice do you give to people that are finding it too hard to let go, and they still know that the actions that they've done are making them the person they are, which isn't the truth, is it? It doesn't define you overall.
No, it really doesn't. And I think another important piece on that same is that sometimes we haven't done wrong, but say if you're dealing with the mental health, or you're dealing with family trauma or depression, or some sort of something, there's been a lot of stigma and a lot of labeling that makes it like, oh, there's something wrong with you if you've got a chemical imbalance. There's something wrong with you if you have anxiety, or if you have panic attacks, or if you're depressed, and there isn't. There
No.
isn't something wrong. There's nothing wrong with us. Uh, we have this life, and we've got to work with what we've got. And I think so. One of the biggest lessons and one of the biggest eye-opening revelations or moments of clarity, if you will, like that happened for me, was that once I was able to talk about all of those kind of deep, dark secrets, those things that I didn't want to share with anybody because I was afraid that they wouldn't accept me, that they wouldn't see me the same, that they wouldn't love me anymore, that they wouldn't be my friend. Um, Once I just opened up, then those demons
Yeah.
that had been holding me down so long were all of a sudden out in the light, right? And then they had no power anymore over me. Like whereas I'd been keeping these secrets and keeping this hurtful self-talk, and I'd been stuffing it all down. and
And
uh
that's
and it
exhausting,
just
isn't it? The weight of that is,
it,
it's, you
it
can't
is.
describe it, can you? It must be that your shoulders and your back are continuously aching, and your head's so full of so many thoughts, you just want to explode.
Absolutely. And your heart and your gut, like your heart is so heavy,
Yeah.
right? And and so and even though I've been through, maybe to some they've it may seem more extreme, right? The years of addiction and homelessness and then in and out of jails and stuff like that. I think, everyone has their struggles, and holding on to those things. It's the sad part, and the challenging part is that we can look okay on the outside, right? We can put up
Yeah.
a front or a smile, or get through a day of work and go to those family functions, and underneath it there's this hurricane going, there's this turmoil, there's this pain, and that's what breaks my heart when I think of when I think of all the people out there who are they live with that every day, because I lived with it for years and years and years, just holding this darkness together and keeping it down, because I was so scared of what would happen once I let it out. And back, full circle to the advice or the suggestion or invitation to people
Yeah.
is to just let some of that go, and talk about it, even if we just say it out loud to ourselves, can
Yep.
be a really useful tool. Because I found that I could have a thought brewing in my head for days and days and days, and it would sound completely sane, and like, that I'm a bad person, and all this stuff. Once I said it out loud, it was like, what was I thinking, kind of thing. So even verbalizing some of these negative thoughts they can open up a different way of looking at them, right? And something I learned was that when you actually speak something, your brain processes it differently, because you hear it through your ear, and then it goes in and it's processed differently than just a thought that's rolling around in your head. So if I have a thought rolling around in my head and then I say it out loud, it sounds differently, and then we can access it differently, and work with it. So, but definitely to just start to get some of that out, and if you have someone you can trust to just kind of talk to. I had some really close, amazing friends who I finally just said, I need to tell you something, like I can't stop doing drugs and stuff, even though I want to. And he's like, yeah, I know, it's okay. Like, but telling me is like the cherry on top. That's so cool. Like, I love you no matter what. I know that you're struggling, and now that you've said it, it's okay. It's all good. So, I mean, and so I just would do these little things bit by bit, right? Just because again, if there's so much built up, years and years and years of anxiety, stress, depression, whatever anyone's going through, it can feel like a lot. Like, oh, if I open this can of worms, it's just going to explode all over the place, and I'm never going to get a grip on it again. But I can tell you from experience that our bodies are amazing, our minds, our hearts are amazing, and it'll only let you deal with what you can deal with,
Yeah.
and so just share a little bit, right? And then you stop, or cry a little bit when it comes up. Just cry and like let it out, or scream and let it out, or laugh and let it out, and slowly these little bits will start to come loose and start to be free of it.
When you were at your worst and you were rock bottom and you probably couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Yes.
at what point was it that it triggered that you then felt you could see a light? Can you remember the point when it was at its worst, but something changed? Something, maybe it was the fact that you just couldn't keep it inside anymore and had to tell someone. But at what point was it where you recognized that there was going to be a way out of this?
Well, I think that's a really important thing to address, is that when we are in the midst of it, in the eye of the tornado, so to speak, or something,
Yeah.
right? There's all this. It feels like there's no way out,
Yeah.
and once I found a way out, I was able to look back and go, holy, what was I thinking? And but it can be so hard to get out of that space. And
Yeah.
so I definitely don't want to make make it seem like it's an easy path and stuff. So what I want to express is that it is possible, and it's step by step by step, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, I'd spent so long in that negative place, in that dark place, and when I one of the I think the biggest relief was when I was finally arrested. When I mean, I touched on it a bit in the documentary, but really, I just needed to get caught for something and get put. I couldn't do it anymore, and so once I was arrested, and then and I still had to hold myself together. But once I got to the Nanaimo corrections, where I knew I could get into that program, that's when things I was able to actually kind of let go and start to actually let some of the stuff pour out, right? Because even through the early stages of jail and stuff, you still have to keep your crap together,
Yeah,
right?
of
Like
course.
I couldn't be, bawling my eyes out or talking to people or,
No, of
saying,
course.
oh, all this stuff, right? Then you still have to, you got to stay tough and all that. So I think it was once I got to the Guthrie and realized that there was other people there who were doing the work. There was people who cared, and that I could just let go, that I really started to let go. And that was a light in
Yeah.
itself for me. I think that was, I mean, I talk about how a major catalyst for me making the decision was realizing that I was going to be a father, right?
Yeah, we talked about that on the last podcast about your daughter and how
Yeah,
it was a reason to become a better person.
yeah, and so and yeah, and so that's where the light kind of dawned on me, and I mean, and see, in a way, the prison was a gift, as it seems like a curse, but in a way, it was a gift because I was locked up. I couldn't go anywhere. I had 3 meals a day. I had a bed. I mean, a lot of people who are dealing with mental health and stuff, they don't have a home, or
No.
they have to work 8 hours a day to maintain and keep their lives going.
And
So
just their sanity as well, just to try and get
yeah,
through a day.
yeah. And so when do they have time to let go and to let go of this when you're keeping yourself together? And that's something for years. I had jobs, and I was just working these jobs, but still holding all this crap underneath. You just don't have it. So I can empathize, and I can feel how hard it would be to actually to be able to let go, because what, on the weekend, right? And
Yeah.
okay, on the weekend well, then if you're trying to talk to a counselor or something, well, they're closed on the weekends, right? You get, or um so it can be really tough, and I think that's where reaching out and asking for support from family and friends, so that you can just start to let little bits go, and let little bits out. I think journaling is a great way to get things out of our heads and just get stuff down on paper, because then it's not churning around inside. Um,
When the bad stuff's happening and obviously the crimes are happening and stuff, I'm sure you think, and I'm talking about in the moment, that it's only you that's like that. It's only you that have ever been in that place. And I suppose when you're being cared for and you're in prison, you then get to realize that it's not just you that's been in that place. And that must feel like, I know it sounds crazy, but that it must be reassuring that there's not just you in the whole world that's ever done that and made those mistakes, and you're not
well,
alone.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, I think one of our basic human, needs and wants is to connect, right? To
Yeah.
connect with people. So feeling like on the outside, right? Feeling for many years like I was no good, or uh, and things, and that So I didn't feel like I could connect with anyone because I was afraid of, oh, if I let them see who I really am, then they won't love me anymore. They won't like me anymore. They won't. And so it's that fear of losing the connection. So once you can see that there's other people like you, I mean, I think more and more there's, resources and stuff that people can access. I mean, whether it's even, I did AA and NA for some years, and it was a great way to build a community and realize that I wasn't alone
Yeah.
in that aspect of my life. Um, and then, and then I was in and out of treatment centers, and for a number of years, and every time I would learn a bit more. And I mean, in a way, some of these programs, these wellness, because I went the treatment centers I went to were more based in like a wellness, a wholeness kind of model, and I mean, in a lot of ways, I was like, everybody needs to do a little 2 month stint at one of these and just kind of like and be able to let go and
Yeah.
and get into some of this stuff and kind of and realize, hey, we're not alone, and there are other people like us and stuff. So
Is it strange that your mental state for so long and the voice inside your head was saying you can't be you? You can't admit, you can't tell the people who you really are because they won't accept you, they won't like you, they won't, welcome you. Is
mhm.
it strange now that you've done this documentary, you've done a number of podcasts and interviews, and you are now you, and you're telling the world that now everybody is accepting and loving you more than you could ever possibly imagine? Because it's such a contrast, isn't it, that you were thinking
It,
so long for one way, and then when you
yeah,
take that jump, everyone's there ready with open arms to support and love you and help you.
that's right. And that's what that's like the main thing that I want people to hear and to take away is that just because I am, David Freeman and from Flight of the Navigator, and people like, loved that and connected with that movie. That's really, I mean, people are connecting with me on that level, but it's not the reason that there's so much like love in a way and support for me talking about my documentary. It's because people can relate, and people have themselves or a friend or family or loved one that have been through mental health or addiction or any of these things that make life so challenging. So so it's like it's that thing of, I finally jumped off that cliff and was like, okay, is anyone,
Who's going to catch me?
who's gonna
Yeah.
catch me? And
Everyone did. Everyone in the world was
everyone
there.
did, and
Yeah.
I think and that works, for everyone. I
Yeah.
really believe that. I mean, I watch a lot of Brene Brown and stuff, and she talks about shame, healing shame with connection and vulnerability, right? So we all want to be vulnerable, but it takes someone kind of being vulnerable first
Of
sometimes
course. Yeah.
to then be like, oh, well, they did it, so now I can do it, right? Oh, and then someone sees them, oh, wow, they did it, and so now maybe I can do it, and it creates this ripple effect, or this chain of vulnerability, which then brings connection because you relate to someone, and then that connection is, heals shame and the guilt and things, and just and it's so freeing. It's
Yeah.
so freeing. And I think that I know that I've connected and talked to quite a few people and gotten amazing messages for people who said, I finally, talked to my family or talked to my friends about the, mental health stuff that had been going on, and they were just like, what can we do? And I was so, they would say, I'm so afraid for so long that wouldn't be accepted. And like we just went through, when you risk and you kind of put yourself out there, um, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get caught. The person's going to be
Yeah.
there and they're going to catch you. And sometimes people don't understand, or they're not ready to get into it, or they don't know how to help or how to act, and we just have to let let that stuff go as well. But I think that from my experience, it's definitely 9 times out of 10 that people are right there with you. They go, oh wow, yeah, I totally know what you're saying. And it just takes someone to kind of take that first step and be like, okay, here I am. Right.
And to see you on the other side now and in the light and the documentary, but not just that, just speaking to you over email and just seeing you,
Mm.
you've never looked better. You feel like you're living again. You've got a purpose. What's the biggest change that you've had to make to sustain this? What is it that stops you going back to that place? What is it that is your reason every day? And I think on the last podcast you talked about your love for your daughter and obviously being a father, but
Uh,
it must be more than that that actually physically stops you going and doing those actions. What is it that every day you're telling yourself or doing differently that's making you the person you are now?
Well, I completely changed my self narrative, right?
Yeah.
I think that was key in my transformation, really,
Yeah.
because I I was just reading something about. They say that there's something like 90+% of our thoughts are negative, right? They just like um, and so now I don't necessarily agree with that, although I do know that negative thoughts can take hold so much easier than a positive thought. They're
Of
like weeds,
course.
right? Our mind is our garden, right? And we've got to plant the seeds that we want to grow, right? And negative thoughts are like a weed. They grow and they grow, and you've got to keep ripping them out. You got to just keep pulling them and planting, flowers, and planting gratitude, and planting love and joy and abundance and bliss and friendships and family. So changing my self narrative
Yeah.
has been the hugest, the biggest transformation for me. Every once in a while, a negative thought will come up, or something will happen, and I'll be like, "Oh, I should be doing more than I'm doing," or even every once in a while, it's like, "Oh, I could just, well, oh, maybe I could just go get high one weekend, right?"
It's only
But
one
it's
weekend.
like,
Yeah.
but
But
it's
yeah.
like, oh, but then I'll do that trick. I'll say it out loud,
Yeah.
and it will sound completely ridiculous. And I'll go, no, like, what's the, it I mean, addiction is a really strong one. And I mean, I have friends who, even been clean for 20, 30 years, and they still say every once in a while they get that thought, oh, I could just go get high. I could just go have
But
a drink.
that's real though, isn't it? Because you
Yeah.
don't just have a button you can turn off. And that's really important that people understand that. You don't just say, right, I'm never going to do drugs again. And that's it. It's not that simple. You can't rewire yourself.
I mean, well, you can actually rewire, but it takes practice, and it takes consistency, and it
Yeah.
takes time. And what happens is, right, and now whenever, as I'm going about my day, and I'm making lunch, or I'm going somewhere, the thoughts that are going through my head are like, I am love, I am abundance, I am joy, I am gratitude. And if something comes in like, oh, oh, am I going to make rent this month or whatever? You know what? No. Yes. I mean, yes, I will. It's okay. And I just go back to, no, life is good, right? And just keep implanting those positive thoughts. And it can, to some, it can sound cheesy, or it can sound ridiculous, or maybe a little, mystical, but it works. And more I think that we know that it works. Gratitude can change the chemical, your brain chemistry, right? Being grateful for things, the law of attraction and abundance, like, energy flows. It's a circular thing. So the more that I can give away of love and joy or wealth or health or whatever, the more that will come back to me. And it's just a constant give and take of energy and flow. So, and I guess to finally wrap up that question that we went off on.
I can't even remember the question.
Well, it was what makes,
yes, the
what
change.
stops me
Yes.
from going back,
Yeah.
right? What stops me from going back? And really, I mean, it's myself now. I
Yeah.
love myself, right? Whereas for so many years, I couldn't stand being in my own skin, and now I'm doing what I love. I'm pursuing, acting, and we've been doing some cool. I did a couple short films here on the island, and even got to work on a couple feature, little independent features with some really great local filmmakers. And so I'm doing what I love. I'm following my heart, and then success comes, and I love myself, and I believe in myself. And it took some practice, right? It
Yeah.
took some practice.
It's not
I had to,
overnight.
I had to tell myself that, these positive things until it finally took root. It was that fake it till you make it a little
Yeah.
bit. Right? At first, it was like, okay. And that's where just writing down three things you're grateful for every day, even if it's, I'm grateful for running water, I'm grateful for a hot shower, I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the fresh air today. Just really simple three, things, and then they'll start to take root a little more. Gratitude is an amazing one for transforming that self narrative, and these positive I am statements. So anyone out there who wants to try and instill a new way of thinking, and reverse that negative self-talk, I am statements, I am love, I am joy, I am happiness, I am abundance, I am wealth, I am health, are amazing. And gratitude is incredible. So
There's a lot to learn, isn't there, in life, and every day is another different chapter of something else, and it's frightening, isn't it? As the older I get, I realize things I always used to think were important aren't, and the small things that I took for granted are the biggest things. That's my lesson I've got at the moment at my age.
I love it. It's so true, for sure.
And how is life? You said you're going to auditions, you've been involved in some shorts, you've got some Comic
Yeah,
Cons appearances coming up in the UK, and then,
I do. I'm really looking forward to coming to the UK. I'll be in Edinburgh in October 9th and 10th. And then Manchester, December 8th and 9th, I think. I got to work on a really cool feature film here with some local actors and filmmakers that should be out in some festivals fairly well, probably by spring, I would think. It's called the
perfect.
12-Step Strangler.
Nice.
It's a neat kind of thriller whodunit type of thing about someone who's about a killer who's preying on relapsing addicts in 12-step.
Wow.
Years. So it's kind of neat. It's really cool.
It's original. I like the concept.
Yeah. Some great people working on it, and I also had the pleasure of working on another feature called Fragile Seeds, and another local film. I played a really creepy guy. It was challenging, to say the least, because I totally don't agree with who this guy is at all. So it was finding that okay, diving into this character who's a really dark, evil, pretty much evil person. You'll have to see. But another, great crew of filmmakers here on the island. I've been, doing acting classes, and then most recently, I'm really excited. So I had a little cameo in a kind of a mind-blending horror film called Fried Berry.
Okay.
So Ryan Kruger, he's a South African writer director who put out his first feature called Fried Berry, and he really wanted me to be in it, but with COVID and everything, I couldn't fly, and so he took a little clip of me from the documentary and put it on the TV. And so the main character, Fried Barry's flipping through the TV, and there I come up and I have a little chat. So so that was really cool. And then Ryan was a huge Flight of the Navigator fan and started making films, and was, and his next film, we really want to work on together. It's still kind of hush hush. I can't really say much about it, but I'm really looking forward to working on a movie with him. And I think it'll be a really cool opportunity to do something really fun, really cool, and it'll be kind of my first big piece of acting in a long time. So
does it feel quite intimidating and scary, or are you just like so eager to get back to it?
I will admit, when I at first, I sent him a self tape, and he's like, I knew I wanted you in it, but he's like, I really want you for the lead, and I was like, instantly like, yes, like yes, and then I'm like, oh, can I pull this off? And so there's that thing, right? That self-talk. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
can I do this? 30-day shoot and memorizing all these lines and all the characters, script analysis, and all that worry started to come in, but literally only for a second. I'm like, no, I can do this. I am doing this. I have done it. It's already, and this is what I was meant to do.
You've
And
wanted this as well. You've wanted this for some amount of serious time.
I have. And so as it's pushing through that fear and that because that fear becomes excitement and becomes fuel to power our dreams and to make our dreams come to fruition and become a reality. So I'm really, really looking forward to it.
And it'll only open more doors. You're going to be in a lead role. People then start seeing you again, remembering you for the acting work you've done in the past.
Yeah.
It brings it back to everyone's memories, and then before you know it, you'll be doing another one and another one, and then it's exciting. It's what you've wanted for so long.
Yeah. It's never too late to be who you might have been. I say that one a lot, but it's never too late. It's beautiful stuff.
It's so good to see. I know it's hard because you're on the inside and we're talking about you to you, but to see it from the outside and me going on the internet and reading all the bad things and the worst times, watching the documentary, being a fan of your original work, and then getting to know you and talk to you quite a lot over email, and now have you back on. It's so good to see. It's so beautiful to see how you've just come out on the right side, and everything is there for you, and it should be, because you're such a genuinely good person, and I just can't wait to see where it goes.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
It's important.
Thanks.
And I really do appreciate you coming back on. It's a pleasure, and I think it'll be something that will end up being like an annual thing, because I want to stay in contact. We talk a lot, and I count you as a friend, if that makes sense. I'm looking out for you, and it's good to see. I'm so happy to see you looking so well and so happy.
Thank you. Big things. It's coming. It's great.
And we're gonna have dinner together and beers and pizza, and it'll all be good.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Last time you came on, I asked you what song you wanted on for the outro, and you chose Pearl Jam. But we're going to go there again, and you get to choose a second time. And not many people have been on twice. There's you, Alex Winter, the singer of Thrice, but there's not many people that have been on twice. But it also means you get to choose a different song, and you are prepared because you know what happens. But after today's chat, this episode's ended, it's all edited. What song do you want to play out this time that you think is a perfect song for you? And it's hard because we've had Pearl Jam, and they're, for me, the best. Eddie Vedder's the man. But is there something else, or another band, or maybe another Pearl Jam song, or something that it's there inside your heart that should be on this episode?
Might have to think about that one a little bit.
It's fine. There's no rush. But I'm not letting you go away and then email me. It's got to be today.
Right.
And you play the guitar and sing a lot, so there's probably a lot of songs you could pick.
Well, I mean, we did Present Tense last time, didn't we?
Yeah, what a song.
Oh man.
Those lyrics.
I know. I'm actually so excited. I'm going to see Pearl Jam at the Ohana Fest in September in Southern California.
I've got tickets for London next July.
Oh yeah, me too.
It's been cancelled 2 years running.
It has 2 years running. I know. I'm going as well. I've
Are you
been meaning to
going?
go. I
Amazing.
am.
Which day are
Yeah,
you going? Friday or Saturday?
both.
Oh man, I will meet you on the Saturday.
All right.
Hyde Park. It's going to be
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Pixies and stuff. It's gonna be
Yeah,
great.
incredible.
Let's see.
It's funny, isn't it? What's some of the first ones that come to your head and heart that you think,
Well,
oh,
part of me, I was like, just for the, I kind of went to another Pearl Jam. I kind of went to Red Mosquito because I love it. And there's a line in the end where he says, "If I had known then what I know now," right?
yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Shouldn't that be the one? Isn't that what we've talked about today? Isn't the reason you're going to be at Pearl Jam when I'm there in London? Doesn't it all just make sense that we go with that?
It does. Let's do it. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Yes. Yes.
And I love Pearl Jam. Any excuse I can get to use Pearl Jam on a podcast, it's great.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's why you're always welcome back. Eventually we'll do the whole of Vitology versus 10, the lot.
Oh man, it's yeah. And Gigaton is pretty incredible too. I've just been and I've been really diving into Lightning Bolt too, because I wasn't really around when it was released, so I've been really diving into it. There's some amazing stuff. I just learned Sleeping by Myself on the guitar.
What a tune. And there's Forgotten Gems by Pearl Jam as well. So I've been listening to the song Sirens loads. Absolutely loads. Yeah. That's absolutely incredible. But when I first heard it, I wasn't that blown away. I was just like, yeah, it's okay. But then I started listening to it more and I was like, oh my God, like this song is absolutely incredible.
It really is. I saw a great interview with them and Mike McCready said that was probably his because he wrote the music for that. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they collaborated a bit, but he said that was really my, like the pinnacle, like that song just came together. And then the way that Eddie puts the cadence of the words.
It's beautiful.
Like, it's just, oh man,
it's so minimal at times, but then it's got such an effect on me. I'm honestly, that song, I can just cry. I'm like, that is so good.
It is. I could go on and on and on about Pearl Jam, man.
I love that you're coming to London. I love that. I can't believe you're going to be there. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
3 years wait in the end. Oh my God.
I know. I'm really excited for that one for sure.
I saw Eddie. He did an acoustic show 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, 3 days ago, and he supported The Who at Wembley. Right. And he did an acoustic set. He played Corduroy, Black, all the classics on his own with an acoustic. And luckily, when The Who were on, we saw him in the crowd. I walked over to him. Security stepped in the way, but he shook my hand and I just said, "Eddie, you're a god." And I was like, that was my moment. I know. I was like, I didn't get anything signed. I didn't get a photo, but me and my friend Darren were like, that's enough. Like, I know I've got that forever. As much as I'd love the photo and put my arm around, he was enjoying The Who. I should never rob him of that. I don't want to be that person that disturbs him, but he had enough to just lean over, shake my hand. And I was like, just gave him the look of like, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. I remember seeing that because I'm part of the Pearl Jam fan club. So
yeah,
they sent me a little notice. Hey, The Who's playing and Eddie's playing, and right. And I'm like, oh man, I would love to come, but I just couldn't make it happen. So
well, London next year, it's going to be worth the wait.
Yeah,
we should do a Pearl Jam podcast.
Totally.
Thank you, dude, for coming back on. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and the amazing Joey Cramer. So open, so honest, and is himself throughout the whole interview. And when you're on the Mark and Me podcast and you're doing these interviews day in, day out, these are the best interviews you can ask for. I absolutely love Joey, and I love how he doesn't hold back and he is himself. I can't wait to hopefully do a third part to this interview, and we'll do this in person when he's here later in the year in the UK. If you've enjoyed today's episode, all I ask is that you share it. It costs absolutely nothing to do and is simple as just touching a button on your phone or your laptop. share it on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, and let's get this podcast heard by a whole new audience. It really does make a difference, and I really appreciate it every time I see someone do this. Also, I do have a Patreon page set up, and I have some amazing prizes from Last Exit to Nowhere and Vice Press. Some t-shirts, some incredible posters and prints, and these are available exclusively if you support me via Patreon. Basically, if you're new to Patreon and don't know what you're basically getting up to or signing yourself up for, all it is just your way of saying thank you for these episodes. It may be £1 you want to donate every month or even more, but all I do is then put that money back into the podcast, and it allows me to travel, host the podcast on loads of different networks, and do all I can. I don't make any money off it, and it all goes right back into Mark and me. It's really busy at the moment, and I have no plans to stop. I haven't been very well, and I won't ignore that, so I'm going to take a week off from today because I really need to. The doctors have said to me, you really need to rest, so I'm actually going to listen for the first time ever and do that. But I will be back in just over a week's time with a new episode. So until then, look after yourself, take care, go and watch the documentary Life After the Navigator, and I'll see you all very, very soon.